Okay.
Recording in progress.
I'd like to welcome everybody to the June edition of Tips and Tricks. I'd like to inform everybody, if you were trying to come in and you got a erroneous message that says you are joining the May 12th meeting, that's because of a glitch that I have rectified in Zoom, and therefore the meetings will now be displayed correctly till 2030. But there was a glitch that I created and I fixed the problem, so I apologize if anyone had an issue with that. Our typical format tonight will be open forum, and then we'll go into the topics that I had sent out in an email. I had to prepare tonight's topics weeks in advance because I've been doing a lot of traveling, and I have a very small slotted window to fit this in. So none of these were at all related to Tim's FYIs that he sent out. These are ones that I harvested and created. That being said, let's go into our open forum, and like to ask, does anyone have any questions for the group tonight? Oh, come on, guys. Because then we'll go right into our meetings. Harry, please rescue us.
This is not a question. This is just a statement of something that occurred about 2 weeks ago. And I thought it was odd. If anybody wants to react, that's fine. If not, we can then move on. So in one location, so in Florida, I have Office 2021, and in particular, I use Excel in that suite. And here in New York, I had a problem, and I had to redo everything. So I figured, all right, while I'm here, let me upgrade Office, and I went to 2024. I took a spreadsheet, a very important spreadsheet from Florida, brought it into the new system, and Excel 2024 refused to open it, saying that there was a naming conflict. Apparently, some part of the spreadsheet had been given a name, I don't recall doing it, that conflicts now with the 24 version by using some name that it's not supposed to use. So I used AI to find out, what do you do? And it said, very simple, go back to an older version, open it, change the name, and resave it. Well, okay, obviously I couldn't do that in New York, and I didn't want to wait 6 months. So I had to go to Quattro Pro, which for some of you may remember is like really old. I admit, I guess I shouldn't on a recorded line. I admit that I still use WordPerfect, and it comes with WordPerfect.
How did you get Quattro Pro to run?
No, it runs. It's old, but it runs.
Really?
Not unlike your humble servant, perhaps.
In Windows 11, it opens?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
So I was able to open the spreadsheet. It ruined the formatting. Okay, fine. But all the data was there. I saved it, then opened that new one in Excel 2024, put the formatting back in, bold, underline, italic, that kind of stuff. So it's a pain in the neck. But the point being, it was very interesting, and it brings me back to the advice from my venerable teacher, Tim, who has said many times that he keeps all kinds of computers. And I'm thinking to myself, why would I need a computer from 10 years ago? Tim, I was wrong. My life would have been a lot easier if I still had a computer from 6 or 8 or 10 years ago. You advised me, I should have listened to your advice, that when I came back to New York, that in case I had problems, you said, leave that computer alone, leave it with Windows 10. If you're going to be buying a new one, let that one be Windows 11, let the other one be Windows 10. Turns out you were 100% correct. Whether that's the right way to solve this problem, I don't know. But I could have avoided all the aggravation. If I had a system that had Windows 10, I would have had no problems opening up. So thank you for the good advice. I'm sorry I didn't follow it.
But you learned.
Yes.
Anyone want to comment on this? Keeping an old machine around and just in case?
I'm amazed more than 20-year-old software didn't run on 11.
That was
But Corel,
my shock there.
yeah, Corel bought the company quite a while ago, and I remember upgrading WordPerfect. I don't know what the suite that includes WordPerfect, since then. So it's not quite that old. Your point's well made. It is old, and I guess I shouldn't continue to admit that I use WordPerfect, but I know my way around it, and it does the job. And I just remembered that in the suite was Quattro Pro, so it made the problem more solvable. But interesting that AI's advice, that was perplexity, was just go back to an older version, just like it was that simple. Go back to an older version of Excel and rename everything you need to rename.
I wonder if Windows compatibility mode would have worked on the 2024 version and accepted it in from that 2021. See, there is a compatibility mode for software. Now, it normally is for the execution of the software for an older operating system. It usually does not involve the file format of the particular application. And so whether it would have worked or not, I don't know, but it's a possibility.
I'm not sure this is a question of file format. The XLX, what is it? XLS? I'm missing an X. It should be XLS, maybe X at the end. It recognizes, because I had other spreadsheets that I brought back home with me, and it opened all of them. There was something about this one, which is cumulative. Every couple of months I updated. It's all about, to be honest with you, it's all about medical information. And if I lost that, my wife would be really upset with me. That's a different issue. So there was something, I didn't name any parts of the spreadsheet, so I don't know what the conflict referred to. But apparently something had been given a name within the spreadsheet that conflicts with the coding in the newer version.
Now, the older version, was that already using XLSX? That was the format, so it was at least nominally the same format.
Correct.
Very interesting. But yes, it can change from one version to another.
If it was an old XLS file, like from 2003 or 4 version, you have to go through a converter before you can make it into XLS X.
Correct. Again, maybe compatibility mode might help there.
I don't know.
Tim, what happened to that beard? You look like a new man.
I got hungry.
What happened?
I got hungry.
Oh,
Tim shaved.
Wow, it's a big change.
Donna is the only one in the group that saw that.
well,
Wow.
she's also the only woman who's come in.
Oh, okay.
Point
All
made.
right.
Point made. Okay.
Sanford, I'll bet your wife would have noticed.
Yeah, probably. It's a woman thing. What can I say? Harry, you had said that you were apologizing for using WordPerfect, and actually, I don't think an apology is necessary. I embrace the fact you're using it. There are features in WordPerfect that do not seemingly easily exist in Microsoft Word. So one of the things that we used to do at my company is we used to have to process files, even Word files, to make mail merge documents and things like that. But WordPerfect really excelled at doing it because it would allow you to see the hidden codes that are in a file. You could tell it, reveal codes. I do not know if you can do that in Microsoft Office.
In 25 years, I have not found it.
I've not found it, but in WordPerfect, you could reveal the codes. You can search for those codes, and you can change them.
Yeah.
So those in the group may not understand what these codes are. When you're writing a document, a Word file, just a Microsoft Word, you get to the end of the line, and it will normally just do a soft rewrap and keep going. But at the end of the paragraph, you hit an enter to make a new carriage return line feed. That's the old typewriter thing, carriage return line feed. Well, that's a hard code, but there's also soft codes that are put in at the end of those lines to tell it to print the next line on the next line. Those are soft codes and hard codes. Those can create problems when you're running mail merge documents, or when you're importing one document from one source and you have to port it into a different source. That is, the customer composed it in one software, sent it to you. You have to put it into Microsoft Word or something else to perform a function. Those codes can step on your document and give you a lot of headaches. So it's easy in WordPerfect to go in and either strip them out or augment them. I've not found any word processor that can do this other than WordPerfect.
Correct.
So
Okay,
if
the
you're
other
still
thing
using
is
it,
that
no, I don't see anything wrong with that.
The
It's a
other-
very powerful.
the other thing is that for quite a few years, I produced my own materials to distribute to students. I taught mathematics, and it has a capability to embed integrals and things of that sort, differential equations, fairly easily, that I did not find as easy to do as easily in MS Word.
So when you've got to write a mathematical expression is what I guess you're getting at.
Right. Yep.
Mathematical expressions are a complex layout on way it's expressed, and it has to be expressed specifically for the math to follow properly. That is, where's the divide symbol and something raised to a specific power or base or something like that. You can't do that in Word. Now, maybe Word today can do it better, but for that kind of documents. But I know WordPerfect is great at it.
Those are the two reasons I stayed with it.
Yeah.
You know what else does that? LibreOffice. It has a module called Math.
Okay. Thank
And
you.
that math module is specifically for equations.
Did not know this existed. Again, It doesn't exist in Microsoft Word.
Yeah, and not in Microsoft, but it does exist in LibreOffice. They have Writer, they have Calc, they have Math, they have a draw program.
Impress too.
Impress for slides. Now, Impress is not the equivalent of any other slideshow program. You will run into problems if you try to get it from there to PowerPoint, for example.
Right, and same is true for the base program, which has
Database.
nothing to do with Access in Microsoft.
Those are completely different. Yeah, I think the WordPerfect base is based on Foxbase or something, and it's not based on the same database as Access.
Thank you.
So
yeah, compatibility is a real problem. I had a lot of, when I retired, had a lot of materials that a gal that followed me in a particular position said, would it be okay? Could you, share with me your materials? I said, absolutely. And I just completely forgot that when she brings everything from WordPerfect into Word, oh my God, the reformatting that she'll have to do is an absolute nightmare.
I can imagine.
If you're going to stay with WordPerfect, understand that you are not alone in the world, but sharing with other people. A PDF so they can see your work, sure, but sharing the files so that they can edit it, reuse it, modify it, maybe not. Okay.
Thank you.
One little side bit, just for the information of those who view the video of the meeting. I've seen where Microsoft, as of July, I think 19th, so it's a date that I vaguely remember, but it's somewhere in July, will no longer allow Mac users using Microsoft Office 21 to even run the program. So they either have to upgrade to something else, or they are going to probably have a bad time if they've been relying upon Microsoft Office. And where the problem comes in, I'm not sure.
Microsoft wants its money.
Mhm.
Okay, next question, new direction?
Well, are we ready?
Yes.
For one of mine. For this one, I would like to show something because I have to demonstrate what it is I'm talking about. So let's get a little share going on here with the screen. Don't need to do any video or anything. And I'm going to call up the Microsoft Store. And when it populates, this is the Microsoft Store app, and these are, when they come up, the apps that I have. There are some system components which are listed as Microsoft Store apps. And one of them is WinAppRuntime main. It may be 1.8 on your system, it may be 1.5, it may be 2.0, but if you go into PowerShell, you'll see several of these, and different Windows Store apps use different runtimes. Runtimes are sort of a framework, just like .NET Framework is a framework, and in Linux, the FlatHub has its runtimes, and Snap has its runtimes. And there's also WinAppRuntime Singleton. That very seldom causes problems. But this baby, when it tries to update, does not find its updates. And I have had to go through all kinds of hoops to get that to work at all. Sometimes I have had to just sign out from up here from my account and log in again. Sometimes I've had to reset the Windows Store, which is using that run key, the Windows R. There's Windows Store reset. Other times, it's even worse, and I have to start using things in PowerShell. I don't understand why this is so messed up in its updating. But Microsoft really has been falling down. This has been going on since about January. And Microsoft has never fixed the problem. I don't have a particular solution. I'm just wondering whether it's something other people have seen. That some of these little runtimes just hang or don't update.
I haven't had a problem with it like you've had, but sometimes the Microsoft Store does a decent job in updating the apps, and sometimes they don't. And right now, Microsoft is in a transition. They are dropping the UWP app format, and they're going to go to straight coding of applications. And this affects any developer outside of Microsoft also that has content in the store. So I don't know if that's a factor in this or not.
These are actually system components. And yes, the AI will give one answer one time, and depending on how I phrase it, it'll give a totally different answer. And this is one of these things where no one knows the answer. Yes,
Okay.
you terminate processes. Yes, you clear the cache, and it still won't update.
So
You
it
uninstall,
sounds like you've done all this
you
stuff.
manually reinstall, and it still won't update. You do things with Windows Update components, and it still doesn't update. And then you get this thing that says, well, why don't you just log out and log in as a new user? Log in with your credentials all over again to make sure that the store knows you're on this PC, not on the last PC you used, which I used a little while earlier to update the store and had the similar problems.
Bob,
This spans several computers, so it's not a particular Windows install.
Bob, out of curiosity, did you try doing the Microsoft Store from your administrator account?
That's where I do it from.
Okay.
That's where this happens.
Is that administrator account local or attached to Microsoft?
It's local, but I am logged into the store with a Microsoft account.
I understand that, but sometimes it doesn't play fair. Try running the Microsoft Store update from the user attached to the Microsoft account and see if that'll change anything.
I don't have such users
Okay.
on any of my machines. This is one of the things I do not like about Microsoft, and I don't want to be involved with it.
So how does this occur in the beginning? How do you know that there's a problem?
What happens is over time, you accumulate different versions and different dot versions of these runtimes. And like any other sludge that accumulates, it can cause problems with future updating. But being a built-in system component, it's awfully difficult to remove these. And in fact, if you try to remove them, PowerShell will tell you there are dependencies to this that are still installed. Excuse me, are still installed and are still running. And these would be other store apps or other system components. So everything gets tied into everything else when you do that. So I don't know.
How did you know there was a problem though?
Because I would do the Microsoft Store updates, and these particular items showed up as either queued forever or downloading forever. And sometimes they would say, something went wrong at our end. Retry, never an error code.
You said you go and do the Microsoft Store update.
Yeah, I
Explain
update
that
all
one
the,
because when
I update the Microsoft Store apps.
so how do you do that differently than regular updates?
There is when you open up the Microsoft Store, I'll share it again.
Please do. Because like many people, if I will, Bob, many of us just do the normal updates that come through and don't go through this step that you're about to show us, which is why I'd like you to present that.
Then you're not updating your store apps.
Right. You know, hey, ignorance. We're all stupid here. You know, there's smart people amongst us that teach us.
All right. When you go to your downloads, let's go to home. Here's the store. Go to your downloads. Check for updates. Now that happens automatically about once a day for most people anyway, by default. But when I open Windows, I usually do this anyway while I'm updating everything else. First thing in the morning. And then it'll just do this, and if I'm lucky, it won't cause a problem this time. And after it thinks for a while, it takes a while to contact the server and everything. It gets in a queue. But eventually, it will either say that it will either go back to saying check mark and then check for updates will reappear. Here we go. This is the singleton. It's going to cause us the same problem. It will never complete.
Oh, I see that. I'm trying to do it on mine, and I see that run.
Wait a minute. It's checking the product files. Maybe it'll do it this time. But it goes through this lengthy routine of, I don't know where this is. I don't know where my data are. It'll calculate the download size. Almost ready. This indicates that the cache doesn't know what it's doing. And it'll stay that way forever. Sometimes, if you're lucky, it will update. But usually it won't.
Yeah, normally when you do a Windows update every month, at least, you should go into the Microsoft Store and check for updates in the apps.
All right, this one did do it what it should.
Yeah.
It didn't show the download progress, but it did finish.
Yeah.
Yay!
But that's the singleton, and I expected that should work. Now I do this, but if I wait for the runtime, it never finishes, even after half an hour. So I'm sometimes logging out from here I would just simply sign out and then sign back in. Sometimes that'll clear it up. Sometimes clearing the cache, the store cache, will clear it up. Let me just show you what that is. You don't do it from the search, you do it from WinR, and it's WS reset. And you don't even have to put in .exe, though it is. And you'll hit the OK, and a little black box will flash, and then you'll get your store back, and and its cache has been cleared. So if anything's corrupted in there, it should be all right then. So that's what goes on with those, except that this one did its thing. But it goes through a very long process indicating somehow that those particular runtimes are not satisfied with the data that's in the user data. They don't like it. Or the store doesn't like it. So I don't know.
That was one of two of the topics you had?
Yeah.
Okay.
The other one's a very specific one about my Framework 13 laptop. I got a notice that said that the Framework 13 had a BIOS update available. Now, I'm on a mailing list for beta BIOS updates. Normally, I wouldn't touch a beta BIOS update. But this particular update, I have an AMD-based system, and I've been having some issues with the graphics driver and how it handles the shared memory. This is unified graphics memory, which uses system memory as though it were graphics memory. Not as efficient as having actual VRAM, but that's how this particular system works. And there are two ways of fixing the problem that the graphics doesn't seem to be terribly stable. Either you can manually allocate a little bit more RAM to the graphics, which is done through the AMD Adrenalin app, or you can, or you would need to have a driver or BIOS update. The drivers keep getting updated, but this time the BIOS update listed in its top 3 changes in the changelog that it fixes an issue where the dynamically assigned RAM wasn't staying at the number it was supposed to. So it didn't have as much RAM available. This will cause screen tearing or a sudden black flash across the screen, particularly under high loads, like when you're opening up an account, or when you're running some videos or things of that sort that are kind of graphics intensive. So I ran this update, and it was just like running a Windows executable or a Windows update. It rebooted the system, went into the BIOS update mode, and had that screen that gives these dire warnings: don't touch anything, don't unplug, keep your battery up. And so it went through that for about 7 minutes, and then it was done with that. It rebooted twice. I guess there was a driver that had to realign itself, probably the AMD graphics. And then it got back into Windows, and it looks like it's a little better. And with the BIOS update, Linux still boots the way it used to. The USB device grub is not recognized because of some kind of secure boot issue with a certificate or a key. And otherwise, it appears that performance is as good or better than it was before, but I have a feeling this driver will be more stable. That's the only reason I did a beta BIOS update. So this is a case where, yes, BIOS updates can be easy, but you normally don't do a beta BIOS update because you can get things really screwed up. And then rolling back is a real pain.
Thank you, Bob. Anyone have questions on what Bob was doing? I have a question for the group, though. It's related to the Microsoft Store. One of the apps that's in there that always seems to be popping up is the HP Smart. Someone want to elaborate why we need the HP Smart app to be just thrusted on us?
I don't have it.
Does that only apply if you have an HP printer installed in your on your network?
if you have anything from HP that was ever part of your network
Okay.
or ever part of your computer, anything that was registered in your computer as an HP device, you could have that.
Right.
Yeah. In my past history, HP Smart is only required if you have an HP printer.
Okay.
Okay.
You might check the BIOS, because I do have a bunch of HP machines and that, and some of that stuff can be unchecked. A check mark means that it's going to run, and if you uncheck it, it won't run.
Bert?
Yeah, the HP Smart app. I have an HP printer where I get instant ink, but the Smart app is, we'll call it an controller for HP printers. And if you have a printer, it comes with it initially, or if you logged onto one, in order to keep to be able to use the various functions. But also you can add printers, even older ones, to it. You can log in and to get printers to add to the HP Smart as a sort of a controller for different functions, scanning, printing. And I don't have it, but you could have a fax on my machine too. And it's sort of the overall controller for HP printers that are more recent. But you can pull in older printers and see if it will log into it. And then it has its own update. In the beginning, HP would do updates themselves. And at this point, if you have the app open, it comes through the HP, through the Microsoft Store. So there's a lot of printer fixes that come along in the background. And people have older printers sometimes have difficulty getting them to work. And so I know there are I get emails for old printers having updated drivers and things that you could, keep up to date. But the HP Smart is basically a simple thing, but it actually is being controlled over the internet. So that if you have it logged in, it's actually controlling your printing through the internet because it's actually doing it wirelessly. So
Does that mean your document is going to HP and then HP is sending it to the printer?
yes,
Oh. That sucks.
Epson has a similar sort of an app that allows you to print through their app.
Does that mean that if you're not connected up to the internet, you can't print?
Not that way, but you can print locally.
Print locally.
well, not if you're not plugged in. In other words, if Wi-Fi isn't on, you can use the keyboard on the printer, but you're not.
Okay, so if my Wi-Fi went out for whatever reason, but I have Wi-Fi in the house, I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. My internet provider stopped sending me signal. I have no internet, but I want to print locally. My Wi-Fi still works. Will it work?
No,
No.
yeah, only from the keyboard on the printer locally. So once in a while, it actually stalls a little bit, if for whatever reason, because it's actually logging into HP as it's doing the printing. So if it's not sort of connected to HP, then it takes a little bit of time for it to connect up to its network.
Does that mean HP is copying everything that we're printing?
There is a security feature that you can have on there, so it keeps it more confidential.
Where is this security feature?
In the HP Smart app.
In the HP Smart app, okay.
You have to log into it, and it's sometimes tricky to get it to recognize that it's in the secure part.
Okay, let's see if we can figure this out. Let me try sharing my screen because I have the HP Smart app and I want to see if this is going to work.
Okay.
Hopefully everybody's seeing the Smart app up on my screen.
Yeah.
Okay. And so you say there's a setting I could do. Where would this setting be, Bert?
But in the, when you go to your app, you see the top corner. And you have
In the app,
to
what do I need
privacy
to?
settings.
Oh, privacy settings. Privacy.
That might be under your account, which
Yeah.
is up at the
Okay,
top.
sorry, I gotta move.
Mhm.
Don't sign in. Oh, I thought I had me signed in. Okay. So I'll
That's why
have.
that's what I meant, where it's a little tricky to log into there and get, you know,
Privacy settings. Let's see.
and sometimes it loses it and you
Yeah.
gotta log in again.
Data collection, account. Boy, they really make this. Manage my privacy.
I mean, it's really a server cloud system.
App analytics. Well, we want all this stuff off.
Personalized suggestions.
But nowhere does it talk about this security, say it, enhanced security.
When you have it, you see where at the top where you got that little green checkbox?
Right?
When it's logged into privacy, there's a second checkbox below that.
Okay. I will log in then. And what if I never logged into an HP account?
Then you wouldn't be getting your printer inside this app.
Okay.
The other thing is you might try printables for some fun stuff sometimes. My grandchildren used to play with that all the time.
Printables. Oh, look at that. You can create fun things.
And there's cards, there's mail, there's different learning things. They get you to print
So
stuff.
these are
out.
like preformed
Buy more ink.
templates.
What do you want?
Yeah, they want to get people to do more printing.
Yeah, they want you to they want you to buy ink.
By
But
ink,
there are
right.
some good things here for kids to do,
Yeah.
or to make different cards. You saw
Yeah.
calendars there.
Hmm.
Sometimes there's some party things. It changes every month. There's a new printables that shows up every month.
Mhm.
Yeah, with my niece's kids who are, like 6, 7, 8 years old, if it doesn't work on an iPad, they got no idea it exists.
So there's a photo printing, which is different. There's documents. So basically, you can just you can pick different things. I scan through there all the time.
Thank you. Thanks, Bert. Next question, new direction?
Now I know why I chose Brother as a replacement for my HP.
Yeah, Brother's a good choice.
Brothers is a good choice.
Yeah,
I put them. Go ahead.
Epson has something called Smart Panel, and that's an app. Probably very simple, similar. So what happened with Brother, Drew?
Oh, what I was going to say is that in the chat, I put a link to old versions of Windows. And so far, I've downloaded Windows 98 and Windows 2000. And so far in VMware, trying to get them to install, neither one of them is working.
Reassuring.
Oh, wait a minute. Windows 2000 went to the next screen. I just wasn't patient enough. It's waiting for me to press enter to continue. Yep.
I just installed a Xerox printer for a client, and you have to. It's like in order to do scanning, you have to have an app on your computer. You could print from it with the built-in printer stuff, but in doing scanning, you have to have a separate app which controls the ability, and that's sort of what the HP app is doing too.
Okay. Anyone else want to discuss Microsoft Store, printers, or apps?
What kind of apps?
Well, there was the Microsoft Store apps
Oh,
and updating them. But if you, Drew, if you have an app you want to talk about, we're
I
happy.
run one Microsoft Store app that's called Mouse Highlight, and all it does is when you're giving a Zoom presentation, it enables you to put a big circle around your mouse in whatever color you want and whatever size you want, and it makes it easier for people that are following you around on the mouse to see your mouse.
Thank you. One of the things that I saw come through on my feed, and someone might have noticed that's up on my screen, is that Firefox or Mozilla now has a built-in VPN.
Yes.
Is anyone familiar with how to use this?
Yeah, I've used it. I've set it up and used it.
So, here's how to, does this work like, Drew, you're more familiar with using VPNs. Does this work similar to your commercial VPNs?
Well, it's running in a browser, so it only protects Firefox. It doesn't protect your whole computer.
Okay.
So you have to understand that. And other than that, I already had a Firefox login account. So I logged into my Mozilla account, and you have a 50 gigabyte data limit. You have 50 gigs left, and it's saying that your VPN is on. So if you went to a website that said like what'smyip.com, you'd be able to tell if you were located somewhere other than at home.
So where is this switch?
You can put
missed
it
that
on
at the
a
very
tab
beginning.
on your. It should be a tab on your Firefox.
Okay,
Up at the
so
very top.
I am in Firefox, as you could see.
Look at available. Where is it on mine? History downloads.
I guess I should have looked here. Page opens. Oh, sign into your Mozilla account.
You haven't done that yet?
I believe I'm already in my Mozilla account. Oh, right there.
Sync and save data. You're not logged in.
Ah, okay. All
There
right.
you go. Mozilla VPN. Click on that. Powered by Mozilla. Yeah, you're not logged in to Firefox.
All right. I will have to, I'll do that. Oh, what's this? There's an annual fee?
That's the full-blown version now.
Okay.
You don't want that. That's the one that gives you unlimited data. So you don't want to be here.
I don't want to be here?
No.
Okay.
You get
You want to be where the free
you get
stuff
50
is.
gigs of download per month for free.
For free. 50 gigabytes, yeah.
All right. So the key is I need to be logged into my Mozilla account
Yeah.
to turn it on. I will have to do that. I guess I don't do that by default because I don't want them tracking as much.
Yeah, it doesn't stop tracking whether you're signed in or not.
That's true, but then it starts sending it to my other devices that might have the same login.
Well, if you want, I can show you Firefox VPN.
Please.
I have it on my Firefox system. Let me share and go to screen and share. And let me get rid of this floating panel. And right here, when you're fully logged in and you've got the VPN set up, you'll have a VPN logo on your taskbar here in the Firefox. And if I click on it, it gives me the option to turn it on, and I can choose the location that I want to go to. So I can say United States, Under settings, I can go in here and change whatever settings I want. So let me go into my NordVPN and turn it off. Where is my NordVPN?
Excuse me, Tim, did you lose your login?
Pardon?
I don't see your second login.
Tim's still here.
I'm right
Yeah,
above
but
you.
he had the other computer also connected. It's
Yeah.
not there now.
That it seems like the Microsoft update did something, automatically turned the system off, and I'm just now trying to get back in.
Okay, I just wanted you to be aware it was gone.
So I've paused my connection. This is the Windows 2000 Professional being installed right now. So now if I go into VPN and I say turn it on, I'm now connected to their VPN. And if I go to what's myip.com, and I'm in the United States, Chicago is time zone. So that's where it put me. It put me in Chicago. And if I go to
Pizza.
speedtest.net, let's see what kind of performance I get. Chicago, Illinois. And I'm getting 180, 190, 200, 220. I'll get about 600 or 700 out of my NordVPN.
So there is a hit.
But 243 is enough for you to have a respectable download.
Right.
And 37 up is plenty of upspace. That's almost the full maximum of my upload. So download at 243. I have my raw speed without a VPN is about 800 to 900. It's pretty fast. So that's the Firefox VPN, and it's still registering 50 gigs because I haven't done anything with it yet. But anyway, that's what it is.
Okay, thank you.
All it is. And now I'll stop.
Does anyone else in the group use the VPN, the Firefox free VPN service? Nobody. Nobody's tested it to see.
How many of you knew that you could use it?
Yeah, how many knew?
I know about it.
Pop in on a feed.
I know about it, but everything I've read about it says don't use it.
Really? Please
Yep.
explain.
Because A, it's a free VPN, B, it's a VPN that operates within the browser, C, it doesn't protect your whole computer or your whole network, and D, it's not a very good VPN. It does cause a performance hit on most systems. And
So
the
because
performance
it's in
hit
the
is
browser,
significant.
can I ask, why is it bad that it's in the browser?
It's not protecting your whole computer, and there are ways that bad guys can turn off a VPN that operates within the browser without you even knowing that they did.
Yeah, well, my NordVPN runs when Windows boots, and it starts up and it protects all of Windows. But they also offer a browser extension if what you want is to protect your browser. They do offer that as an option.
So,
And it's a good idea to protect your browser, however you go about doing it. Malwarebytes has an extension that helps protect you, and there are various other extensions.
It's really just a matter of what you want.
Donna?
This is Donna. I have a Cloudflare, the .1111, and in Apple, It shows it as a VPN.
No,
And
that's
I
your
don't
D-
have
that's
any
your
here at
DNS
all on my
server.
Apple devices. So, and I know that when I try to use stars, I have to turn it off. The stars won't work.
Yeah.
So I just
Cloudflare,
think that's interesting.
Cloudflare DNS does include some VPN features.
Okay. Well, I feel a little more protected with that, and it's just an app that you add. And now it's like 4111s something. Anyway, just for information, it's free.
Free is good. Cloudflare. Anyone else use
Cloudflare, yeah.
The other thing that it does is it notifies you if you try to go someplace dangerous. And that's similar to what Malwarebytes will do, but it's also built into many browsers these days.
Right.
Some protections against going to unsafe sites.
Yeah, you have to go into your browsers, each one of them, if you got more than one browser on your system. And there's a security section, and that's where you have to say, do I use standard security, which does not use Cloudflare, or you use an increased or maximum security, and it will usually default to Cloudflare, but there are some other competitors to Cloudflare to be able to do your DNS over TCP/IP, and that keeps most of the information secure. However, it's not perfect. The reason everything can get through the internet when it's encrypted is because of metadata on what you are trying to connect to. And that's how it gets to the site you want to connect, and it will also get you back to your machine.
So
you can
this
also,
is Cloudflare's site.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
are we looking for here?
the various features. Uh,
Cloud, is that the right cloudflare.com?
Well, yeah, it's an app on my iPhone.
It's
And so it's the 4 ones. It's like
Right, but that's
orange
the 4
little
ones
app
is,
with
is the
4 ones
Cloudflare
in it.
DNS. Right, that's DNS.
Right.
so I've got
But
to
it
look
also
for
says it
Cloudflare
comes through.
DNS.
Right. It is DNS, but it also registers like a VPN.
that's the Cloudflare app, which is different.
Well,
They do have
fastest,
an
most
app, and
reliable
they do have a browser plugin.
Hmm.
I'm searching.
Let me see if I can figure out what the story is.
So there is in the Google Play Store something called Cloudflare One Agent. Creates an encrypted tunnel using VPN service on our global network where Cloudflare and data loss prevention and blah, 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 blah. And so she's running the one from the Apple Store.
Yeah, and they do have a premium version, which is Warp Plus, W-A-R-P, all caps.
Yeah.
What have you got?
I did not pay for Warp. I just have the four ones, 1.1.1.1 by Cloudflare.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, I did not pay for Warp.
Yeah, there's a free one that is Cloudflare One Agent, formerly known as WARP.
So Cloudflare is your the way you go to search stuff on the internet?
Anytime you're going to the internet, you have to have DNS look up the address that you're going to.
Right.
And that's normally sent out as plain unencrypted information along with metadata about the site you're trying to go to and coming from. The key thing now is don't use your ISP's DNS default lookup service because it's usually the worst DNS service you can get. You get delays in getting the address translated and get to your site. There are a bunch of free DNS services that give you lightning speed by comparison, and Cloudflare happens to be one of them. You can go into the security section of every browser and you can change the security settings to use a, say for example, OpenDNS is one. There's a family DNS service. There's a Start On or something like that, as well as the Nines, and you have Cloudflare also. There's about 8 or 9 of these different free services. They don't charge you anything, and they say they don't track your information. Even Google has this free service. You can use 8.8.8.8, and a secondary would be 4.4.4.4. And so you have a primary and a secondary one, so that if the primary is too busy with other services being rendered, it'll shove you over to the secondary server where you may still get fast service.
Can you manually go in and change that DNS lookup?
Yeah, you can, in Chrome, for example, it says use secure DNS under security, and there's a couple of other hoops you jump through until you get there. It's Chrome settings, security, and under advanced, it will say use secure DNS. That's the second item under advanced.
This feature applies to every single browser, and I have gone through umpteen ones. I usually have as many as 3 or 4 browsers per machine that I have out there, and I always set up security to use a DNS service just to get quicker responses. And in some of them, you have the ability to do DNS over TCP/IP, which encrypts it. And that is safer in 2026. So that's something you want to think of doing. It's built into all of them. If you use Firefox, like you were looking at the VPN before, and it has a security section. And you go in there, and it'll be set to standard DNS utilization, but they give you the option for increased and maximum. If you select increase, it will attempt to do it over the TCP/IP encrypted, but it's not guaranteed all the time. If you go to maximum, that will guarantee it does encrypt your DNS request all the time. Your local ISP knows where you're going because of the metadata that is part of the TCP/IP information being sent out on the internet of where you want to go.
There is also something in VPNs called split tunneling. And that means that where devices do not want the VPN, or some sites might not like it, you can just simply not use it there, but you're using it everywhere else.
Right. It's kind of like having a whitelist and a blacklist.
Yeah, it's a whitelist.
Wasn't there a Steve Gibson who had a test you could run, and it would tell if your DNS was private or if it was Comcast or whatever? I don't know if he still has that website. I don't have a Windows machine anymore, but I think I used it when I had Windows. I don't know if it works with Linux or Apple. I never tried, but I think his name was Steve Gibson.
Gibson
The
Research.
DNS I've been talking about is available on any OS in any browser. Period.
You can test the security of, it's the DNS name server spoofability test. And there's a leak test. And there's a benchmark utility, all of which are a GRC website. And it can tell you whether there's cache poisoning. It can tell you whether you've got a DNS leak. And it can benchmark your query servers.
Yep. I put a link in the chat to the free AdGuard ad blocking DNS. You can sign up with a free account and have your own private DNS server settings that's encrypted between your router and the server. And it gives you ad blocking to all of the devices on your network.
Bert?
Yeah, on the iPhone, on my iPhone, I have Windows Defender, and it includes the ability to turn on the VPN. And of course, that's free.
Well, Microsoft supports VPNs, but you still have to have one.
So turning it on does not put you through a VPN? It just
Still, if you try and turn on the Microsoft VPN, it's going to try and set you up with your VPN. You have to put in your VPN settings.
This is on Apple.
it's on the phone.
Oh, on
It's on his iPhone.
Windows Defender.
Wait, you're running Windows Defender on your iPhone?
Yes.
Oh,
I
okay.
didn't know you could do that.
I didn't know you could do that either.
And it can, I don't know, it said, it came along a couple of years ago on the iPhone for security reasons, I guess. Basically, it's not, it occasionally goes out and comes up with a message to say you got 0 alerts or whatever. It tests in the background by itself on my phone.
Where does it say you're connecting to?
I don't know. It's in your settings on the phone. When you go to settings, one of the choices when you're looking at the main screen here.
Except for free VPNs, which usually only have one site to connect to, or 2 at the most, all paid ones give you the ability to change the place you are connecting to, such as if you wanted to see a soccer game over in Europe, you would connect to a European server on a VPN. They think you're local and you can get their content, whereas if you were to go straight from the US to there, they may not let you in and see the content.
You won't get this Defender for iPhone without having a Microsoft 365 subscription. It comes with your subscription.
Yeah, and then you
that
still
makes more
have to,
sense.
so in the settings on the phone, you still have to push the button to turn it on.
Right.
Exactly.
It should also give you the ability to change where you are connecting to on the VPN server. I have a VPN service right now, and I connect to Minnesota. I used to connect to Chicago, but apparently that changed with that VPN provider.
The only information this shows is when you ask where it's connected, it says Windows Defender.
Okay.
You do have to log into your Microsoft account to use it.
Which I always do.
Right.
Well, that's doesn't tell anybody where the site is of the server that you are connecting to.
Okay, here's the story of what that app is really doing. It is a VPN, but it's a local VPN, not a privacy VPN.
Wow.
It's self-looping.
Okay.
It does not hide your traffic.
That's what it is. You know what? It uses, I have an app that does that also on Android. It's basically what it does is it uses the VPN connection to process the incoming internet data. It basically routes your incoming data through a fake VPN that allows Bitdefender to then scan the packets for viruses and things.
So it's a loop back to allow scanning
Yes.
of incoming traffic.
Yeah, I have an exact same app on Android.
It gives Windows Defender antivirus access to the data stream so that it can check for malware.
Yes.
So that brings up an interesting point to further this subject here. Is on an iPhone, do you need to run an antivirus product? Which is what Windows Defender would be, an antivirus product, correct?
Well, it's going to help you from going to bad, malicious websites, perhaps protect you from phishing attacks. It'll add some features to it, but it's not, obviously, it's not going to be defending you from Windows viruses, but it will alert you that if you're downloading, think about it, if you're on a Mac, you could download, or even an iPhone, you could download something theoretically that's for Windows that's infected with a Windows virus. It's not going to harm your iPhone, but if you attach it to an email message and send it to your friend who does run Windows, you're sending him an infected file.
It still can get propagated?
Yeah. Linux users have the same problem.
So, yeah, so that's what you have to be careful of.
Well, I only get my stuff from the Apple Store.
Yeah.
And I do not run a virus. I mean, I don't have a virus program, but I only get what I put on my phone from the Apple Store.
Right.
And
yeah. But if you download anything like any kind of data, or if you use iCloud, if someone injects anything in there, or if you're at a website and something gets downloaded through your browser, even Safari, it can be a problem, and it can be a problem for iOS as well. iOS is quite secure, but it's not perfect.
Yeah, you might be able to download some kind of a PDF file that's got something attached to it.
There's code that can get inside of iOS.
Yeah.
And
it's not as easy, but it's there.
Yeah. It can come from a variety of sources, including a bad website or a bad ad.
well, maybe that's why I have that Malwarebytes browser guard.
That will protect your browser, and that I believe.
So
I don't know whether
that takes
it's
care of when I'm out and about, right?
I don't know
There's
whether
a
it's good on
tracker.
Safari. Yeah. Go
They
ahead.
take out the trackers too, or duck. No, anyway, trackers are taken out with
Yeah,
duck.
yeah.
So the trackers are taken out. So I don't know. Those are the areas I use. That's what I use. It may not be the best, but for right now, I'm okay.
Yeah, DuckDuckGo will not have the trackers.
Are you running Malwarebytes on your iPad? Donna?
It's a browser extension.
Yeah. Their web browser extension is available for any device because it operates at the browser level. Right. I don't know whether they have a version for Safari.
I've been, they just about have it for everything, and that's not a joke. I have every browser with Malwarebytes browser guard, and I've had it for many, many years. And every now and then when I'm trying to go to a website, it'll pop up a screen, suspicious activity or known malware, stuff like that. And you get an option to go back. But if you know it's a good, safe site and it's just getting a false reading, there's usually a way of bypassing that security alert and continuing on to that website. But you got to know exactly where you're going, and you got to have absolute trust that that's a good site that you normally go to. And otherwise, always hit the go back and or X out the tab for that search.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, I only have it on my Linux. I have it on Brave browser. That's what I want to say. And a lot of times I use Brave browser in Apple.
I have it always on all my browsers. I don't care what it is. Every browser.
I don't know if it can go on Safari, Tim. That's what I'm saying. I never,
Yeah.
I don't, but I use Brave browser a lot. And so that's where I have the malware bites.
Right, but I have it on all of them.
But you have an Apple Safari and you have it on Safari? I don't know. You
I
can.
haven't had an Apple working in, God, about 8 years.
Okay.
I
Well,
used to have.
Safari is a browser. Malwarebytes is either a plugin for your browser. You might be running the browser extension for Malwarebytes in Safari.
I don't know. I'm not running it in Safari is what I'm saying. I don't know that you can.
Yeah,
It
it
Just
is.
running it in Linux or in Brave browser.
It is the browser plugin we're talking about. But the question as to whether or not it works with Safari, that we can find out.
Safari is classified the best browser to use on Apple products as far as the
Malwarebytes was
safety
free.
is.
Yeah, it does work.
But I thought it was free.
Malwarebytes Browser Guard is free, and it does work on Safari if you have at least iOS 12 or Mac OS. Which was that? Mac OS 12? Yeah, Mac OS 12. You can get it through the Apple App Store. And all you do is enable it.
Yeah. It's one of the biggest headaches, and I've never understood it completely. Extensions have existed for browsers for a long time. It's almost like an app store. Chrome is the best known one, but there's also others for like Firefox and its derivatives. And you have a ton of extensions you can put in. Not all extensions are good. Some of them may invade your privacy, etc., and gather information off your device, whatever it is. But Malwarebytes Browser Guard, I put it on any kind of a browser on any OS that I'm running.
And the answer about Malwarebytes antivirus is it is available for Mac.
And for the Mac OS, not for iOS.
No, and I don't think you'd need anything like that for iOS.
Yeah.
Similarly, you wouldn't need a Microsoft antivirus on Android.
Right.
They're just entirely in different environments.
I do run on my Android Avast antivirus.
Yeah.
And it scans software that comes from Google Play, but
yeah,
I also use other stores, and so I want to scan those files too.
Yeah, if you sideload, you better be scanning stuff. And yes, things like Avast or Avira or any of these others will do some scanning to see whether the app is on the blacklist.
And if you subscribe or pay for Malwarebytes on the PC, then you can use Malwarebytes paid on your phone.
Right, you could share that account.
Okay.
Good. Okay, let's move on to the email that I sent out with topics for tonight. Would someone like to pick out a topic? Give me a number.
Number one.
Number one, turning your old phone into a security camera. Okay, so let's show what I got here. So I got some step-by-steps here on what you can do to do this. What you need is your phone, Wi-Fi, power cable, all that other stuff, camera. Then you need to try some of these apps, and there's a bunch here that are listed. There's 4 that are listed. Alfred Camera, At Home Camera, Presence, and M Anything. Install the app on your phone. Set up the phone as a camera device. Install the viewing app on your main phone or PC. So you do have to have one as your source and the other is your target, what you're going to view it on. Position the phone where you want it, plug it in, and then test it. Sounds pretty straightforward, and I would guess that it would be running 24/7 once you start the app, and then it's just up to the client, the client app to be able to go and tap into it. So it gives you suggestions of where you can put it, whether it's your front door, your garage, basement, watch your pets, bird feeder, and monitor your 3D printer. Also, you can set it up with motion detection, live streaming, recording clips, night mode, two-way audio. Use the rear camera for better quality. Keep the screen dim or off to reduce heat. Enable Wi-Fi only or turn it in airplane mode plus Wi-Fi. So the heat is going to be a problem on your old phone. So it will want to generate a lot of heat because it's trying to charge the battery. So you got to watch out for that your battery doesn't create a problem. And that's it on how to do it. It's subject to the apps that you're going to run. Has anyone tried to use their phone as a camera? No. Well, we all get to try it now. Hopefully somebody will test it and let me know how it goes by next month. Okay.
Can you
Anyone
share
want to
that
comment on
document
this?
Can you share that document on the?
Yes. At the end of what I'll do is I'll convert this whole thing over to an RTF and I'll put it in the chat. Just,
Okay.
okay, I'll do that while I'm talking to everybody.
Okay.
Anyone want to discuss any of the other topics that were in there?
Number 9.
Number 9?
We're using tablets as smart displays.
Yeah, we're all reusing old stuff.
I need a movie screen for my train layout.
Okay, there's a WordPad. Okay, bear with me. I'm doing 2 things at once here, and we're looking at number 9 now, right?
You mean you want to produce, you want to have a miniaturized drive-in?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
That'd be cool.
reusing it. Okay, let's go
Except that it'll be showing movies from in the future in many cases, depending on your time frame for your layout. It'll be a
Using
future
tablets
movie.
as your smart display. Okay, so purposes to use it, you can make a calendar, display the weather, security camera. So you could tie that into your old phone that's looking at your 3D printer. Smart home controls, you can run your music library through it and broadcast that through your home speaker system if you have it set up for. Possible or popular dashboard and smart home apps would be Google Home, Amazon Alexa, Home Assistant, Sharp Tools, or DAC Board. DAC Board I know is a good one for setting up calendars, like family calendars and stuff. I don't know if anyone here in this group has ever used them. In the kitchen, you can use, there's all kinds of things that we have here in this document that shows you usages. So let's see if it tells me what I need to know. Okay, we talk about wall mounting, problems, a typical, is your swelling of the batteries, because you're going to have this thing running on a charger all time, all day long. And the Wi-Fi once in a while will disconnect on you. And if you have an old OLED, you may get screen burn-in.
Yep.
Has anyone tried to use an old tablet for this purpose? Well, everyone's going to be jumping on it next. Who's got an old tablet they want to repurpose for this purpose? Pete does. So we'll know by maybe a month or two, Pete will say, I tried it, and A, it worked, or B, it failed.
I want to see it in his train display, in his train layout.
Yeah.
I want to see it showing a movie that's like decades ahead of the
There you
time
go.
period for the train layout.
You know, that brings up a point, Pete. You got some of the train cars that I sold you in that train layout, do you not?
Yes.
Okay. Hey, I want to see this for sure.
Yeah, I have a train layout from the 1940s showing a 1980s movie, like maybe Back to the Future.
I like this.
It'll probably be North by Northwest.
Oh,
Yeah, that's an old movie. Yeah. And you're lucky, the copyright may be expiring on that movie one of these years. The old
You can also have it as a drive-in movie.
Yeah,
that's what he's doing. He's going to set it up like a drive-in screen.
You can use an iPhone playing it that way too.
Well, a tablet looks nicer.
An
because it's
old
a big-
tablet is free.
Yeah, and an old tablet is a bigger screen.
today's the 9th, right? Yeah, today's
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm trying to create that document for you guys. Put in the link, which I just did.
Yeah, there are some old movies that are coming out of copyright and they're going into public domain. And they include some pretty good movies from the early days of the color movies.
Yeah, as long as Sony didn't grab them.
Yes, some of them they did, but not all of them. For example, the Marx Brothers movies didn't get gribbed.
Oh, that's a good thing.
Why is that a good thing?
We don't want Marx Brothers to be in public domain.
No, they did not get gribbed. They
Oh,
are.
okay.
They are going into public domain,
Oh,
which means those movies could disappear.
yeah. Okay, I'll put the document in the chat. This is my entire document that I created for this meeting.
Okay.
So you got lots of discussions there. So I'm hoping next month somebody is going to show us that they did this with the tablet, as well as with the repurposing of the iPhone. Who'd like to pull up another suggestion of a topic for tonight?
Well, let's see what we got.
Crank
Just a
right
moment.
through these.
Topics. How about cleaning dust from your PC, number 10?
Ooh, cleaning dust, number 10. Okay,
Good.
so let me grab something.
Because I have computers in several different form factors and different degrees of ease of opening the computer case. Everything from a laptop to a small form factor to a tower. So those are very different use cases for cleaning.
Sorry for disappearing on you. But I wanted to-
And then there was my old Chromebook, which seemed never to get dust in it. Because
So
the
this is
case
one of
was
the tools that I picked up. You can get some of these on Amazon. And it is basically it's a fan, a blower, and it replaces compressed air because it channels it through a small opening here. There are some really, really strong ones of these. This one here has a really good power to it for blowing out your keyboards, for blowing out your fans and stuff like that. A buddy of mine showed me one over the weekend that is like ridiculously powerful to the point where he uses it to blow off the snow off of his sidewalk. But yet it's a little bigger than this, and he can blow the snow off his sidewalk.
The trouble with using too much force with those air guns is that you can completely mess up a fan.
Definitely, definitely. And the one he has for sure would do that. But this one I think works really well. I don't want to blast you guys real out, but
Well, that got noisy.
yeah, it got pretty noisy pretty quick. And it works really good for this purpose. Also great to use on bonfires or campfires if you need to throw a little air into the fire to get it stoking. Works great, really. So they have secondary purposes. How else do people do clean the dust off of their computers?
I take the cover off and blow it out.
Very good point. Take the covers off, blow it out. Be careful when you're blowing on the fans. What other parts do we need to blow through?
There are places where you might need to get a swab and maybe use some isopropyl alcohol.
Okay.
And you can also clean contacts and electrical components that way. Anything that plugs into a motherboard might benefit from that.
Right.
But as far as dust goes, the biggest problem with dirt and dust isn't actually inside the PC case, it's the keyboard, which gets really messy. And those, you just turn them upside down and shake them over a garbage can and watch all the crumbs come out.
Amazing the amount of crumbs that come out. And you are right, the keyboard does get the dirtiest of everything. I'll put an asterisk there under under the fact that if you have cats, you may have a bigger problem because they like to hang out where the fans are blowing or where the heat is and stuff. And,
Yeah.
that hair tends to get sucked into a PC a lot more. But Bob did hit on it. The keyboard is your biggest culprit for getting dirty. And that's something you should probably clean out maybe every month or every couple of months. Taking the keyboard, lift it up upside down, and just shake it, up and down, or tap it on a surface, and you'll watch all the debris fall out. You could also use, a device like this one and blow it as you have it upside down.
It also depends on whether it's one of these keyboards that's more sealed or whether it's the more traditional one with the open keys. Because the ones with the open keys, those get so full of crumbs.
Right.
It's like...
Go ahead, Bob. Finish. Bob, finish yours.
Yeah, it's like cleaning out the bottom of a toaster.
Oh, yeah. Some people just don't do it. They don't clean out their toaster. They just throw it away and buy a new one.
Well, they wait till it catches fire. Okay, so Pete, I stepped on you.
Yeah. So I find about once every 2 weeks I've got to clean the trackball.
Your trackball.
Trackball, yes.
The oils go on the trackball, and then they cover the little nylon nibs that are inside the trackball, and then it starts to stick.
Yeah.
It doesn't work anymore. Just that it's hard to work.
So how do you clean those little rollers in there? What do you do?
Just a sec. I pop out the ball,
Yes.
and then I will take don't want to lose the damn ball. I take a fingernail, and they're not rollers, they're just guides. And I just pop them loose with my fingernail or a brush, and then I blow them out, and then I reinstall the ball.
Okay. To further that statement, on the other side is if you're doing a mouse, your mouse will have a similar problem. It's not oils, but in this case, it's going to pick up any debris that's on your mouse pad or floor, and it slowly starts to build up on the little rollers that the ball that's on the underside of the mouse connect or is engineered to. So in a mouse, you have a ball that rotates, and then you have two slide barrels that rotate in opposing directions. One is going for conversation, north-south, and the other is for conversation going east-west. And that is your X and Y coordinates, if you will. So what happens, as Pete was showing, if you turn your mouse upside down, there's a little ring down there where the ball is, and you just rotate it in the opposite direction. Turn the mouse over, the ball is going to fall out. Set that aside. Then look inside that controller, just like Pete was showing us, and you'll see the two plastic rollers that are in there. They're each in opposing opposite directions. Often what happens is you'll start to see debris or dirt accumulate and get thick on there. Real easy to clean. You could do it with a Q-tip, with alcohol, or you could do it with your fingernail and just pull it off of there. Just scrape it off. It just builds up like wax, if you will. But get that off of there, blow it out, put your ball back in, your mouse will be working dynamite. Also, underneath the mouse will be a series of slip guides that are on the bottom. They're little, it's actually like I think it's a silicone or a nylon. Yep, you got it. There's little guides on there. And in Pete's case, you see two at the top and probably one at the bottom. So there's three of them. Those little feet that are on there accumulate garbage, and it just builds up again like wax. Take your fingernail and clean them off, or use a Q-tip with alcohol. Pete?
Yeah, so you're using really old school mice with the ball.
Yeah, they're using rats.
Oh, you're right. I did show my age here, but because you brought up
I was
trackball. That's
I was
how
about to hold up my mouse to the camera.
Most of my mice are wireless and have infrared sensors on the bottom.
Pete, you found the flaw in my explanation there.
Just a moment while I turn off my background. Yeah, I have my mice like that too.
I'm sorry, you're right. No one's using the mice like the old school ones that had the ball on the bottom. They're all
There you go.
The infrared.
There's a little slot that might need a little cleaning, and they're the feet.
Okay, the feet are the ones that are going to get the wax filled up on them. So
Well,
it's
the
cool what I
wax-
said about the little rollers. So, Tom?
The wax buildup you're talking about, yes, I agree with what you're saying, but think about it. Your keys on your keyboard, you might want to use the type of wiping pad you'd have for cleaning of hands in a hospital. That would be great for cleaning your keys. Because there's a buildup.
Yeah.
There's a buildup on those all the time.
All the time.
You won't notice it, but you're not always the cleanest fingers in the world. Come on.
No, none of us have clean fingers, and our fingers are full of oils and dirt and
human.
cookie crumbs and
Well, that's what gets in the keys.
and it all gets in the keys.
That wasn't mentioned by anybody, so I figured, hey, say something, Tom.
It's a little hard to get barbecue sauce out of there, though.
Yeah. The top surface of a mouse is the same way, and the buttons and the scroll wheel.
Okay.
They also can get stuff in them.
Bert's showing us the microfiber cloth, and Tom is saying you got to clean the top or the roller wheel. How you clean that roller wheel, Tom?
I don't use it much, but
Yeah.
I've never had a problem with it to clean it. But that I would probably use a what was it? A Q-tip with a little alcohol on it.
Yeah.
Rubbing alcohol.
Something like that.
Very little, but yes.
How do you clean your screen on a laptop?
There are cleaning cloths for that.
Okay.
Yeah, the type
Microfiber.
of cloth,
Microfiber.
yeah, the type of cloth you'd use for cleaning glasses.
Okay.
And
And-
the spray, the same spray you'd use for cleaning glasses.
What about a solution? Do you need a solution?
Do not use the same spray that you use for cleaning eyeglasses,
Okay.
unless it's made for coated lenses. If it's made for coated lenses, it should be safe.
All right, but let's say you're not using eyeglass cleaner. The rest of us don't have eyeglass cleaner. How am I going to clean my screen on my laptop or my desktop?
The first thing you have to remember is the alcohol that you use cannot be ethyl alcohol. That will ruin a screen.
Okay. Pete's trying to show us something.
He's
What's
showing
going on,
us-
Pete?
Nail polish.
No, no,
That's-
no, no.
Oh no, it's
Is it
alcohol.
isopropyl? Isn't it
Yeah.
isopropyl?
It's isopropyl, high purity.
Yeah, that's what you have to use.
High purity isopropyl, and it can be the industrial grade. It doesn't have to be medical grade.
Well,
Okay,
it's
so like a 91?
Stuff I use is 91.
Yeah,
91%.
91%. So you're spraying that, if I recall my procedures, you spray it on the rag, the microfiber rag, and then you wait a moment before you put it on the screen, correct?
Yeah, that's the best way.
You don't want it sopping wet,
No.
cannot be sopping wet.
Any kind of alcohol that stays on a screen for too long, you're risking damage. It may get cloudy,
Okay.
especially matte screens. Matte screens tend to absorb stuff that you put onto them. So, yeah, you just hold it for a while till it's just a little bit damp to the touch. And wipe it out.
Anyone else want to comment on how to clean their PC? I mean, this is a basic thing, but all of us forget to do it.
If
Yeah,
you're,
I mean,
if
the
you're
first
using an
time
air
I even,
blaster,
Wait, I got a lot of people talking here. Drew, go ahead first.
the first time I thought about cleaning my laptop that I'm using now, it's a gaming laptop that's very big and thick and has very loud fans. So I was figuring that when I took the cover off, it was going to be very dirty on the inside, and it actually wasn't that bad at all. It did take a little bit of air to blow off a little bit of dust, but it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Okay. Pete?
if you're using an air duster or some high-speed air, take a pencil eraser and hold on to your fan blades. That way they will not spin. And you can get all the way around them.
I like your idea of using the pencil eraser, the back end of the pencil, because of the fact that a pencil is non-conductive. And this is key when you're working in your PCs, your computers, any of them, static electricity is your enemy. So if you have carpet, make sure you ground yourself to the PC before you start working on it.
Never
Anyone
done
want to
that.
comment? How do you ground yourself to a PC?
First
You
of all,
can
you
buy a
unplug
grounding
it.
cord from Amazon.
Okay, you could buy a grounding cord. Pete,
You unplug it.
unplug it. Okay, that's the first thing you do is unplug it. The other thing you do is on a big tower, the way I would do it is I always make sure I touch the power supply. That's the back of the computer. When I touch that, that makes me it's the same conductivity or electrical status as the tower. Then I can work on it. Anyone comment on there? Am I wrong?
I don't know. I don't have any towers.
I
so
used to
just-
sell static equipment, and there was a strap that the engineers put around their shoe, and that grounded them.
And
That was the easy one. The other one was they had to have something on their wrists that was grounding. But the easiest thing is have them put that strap on, and then we never worried.
so
Anyway,
that
way
strap
back
they
when
put on
I
your
was
shoe,
selling it,
what did they attach that strap on their shoe to?
it would wrap around your shoe and be put inside, and like then they'd lace up their shoe.
Huh.
It was like just a strap. But anyway, it was a grounding strap, and I'm sure that must be available. But I haven't sold electronics in a while. I'm retired.
Well, besides grounding straps that you put on your wrist, I've got a couple laying around the house. I used to have them for field service. You can also get anti-static mats for people who do repairs on computers. You put the computer and its components onto the mat, and it's already grounded and keeps everything in equilibrium.
Yep. On Google, they have grounding sheets, grounding mats, grounding shoes. They got all kinds of choices. I've never used one in my life, and I've been a computer tech for 45 years.
It's shocking.
It could be.
That's kind of interesting. You never used one in your life, yet you've been in IT all this time.
Well, it becomes a problem in the wintertime. Right now, we're in the summertime. If you haven't noticed the humidity outside, you haven't been outside. So it automatically kills the static electricity during warm weather. The
Drew
humidity
probably doesn't notice it because he's down in Florida, and it's
But
humid there
I
all
spent
the
most
time.
of my working years in Massachusetts.
A
Yep.
lot of that where he's at in Florida is has a lot of humidity almost year round. Up here in the Chicagoland area, we have usually cold winters, and that creates a dry air extreme, and it transfers indoors as well, and that's what builds up static electricity. It also has a factor of the type of material you wear in your clothing. Type of material may generate more static electricity in dry air than, say, cotton. So if you have like jeans on for pants for a guy, that's cotton. It doesn't generate and conduct static electricity. But a lot of women's clothing are made of a lot of synthetic materials that do generate a lot of static electricity, particularly in very dry air.
If you walk across a carpet, touch the doorknob before you touch your computer. That will discharge you. You might feel it too.
especially when you touch somebody. Okay, we got time for one more subject here. I think we covered this one fairly well. Someone want to pick out a number off my list? And if you're not seeing the list, go look at your chat. I sent out a chat of this whole thing with all the numbers on there, I think. Yeah.
That's where I have problems with my iPad. If I go there and click on it, I can't get back. Isn't that strange?
Yeah.
Anyway, that's just me. So that's
For
why I
whatever
got
reason-
logged out, because I couldn't get back in. Anyway,
I never could understand, Donna, why Apple did not put a back key.
I
God,
Anyway.
it drives me
You
nuts.
cannot go backwards.
No.
well, I
no.
have a back arrow here, but I mean, when I'm in chat and I follow a link, then I can't get back, and so I have to log out and hope I get let back in.
Yeah.
It's just a weirdo.
Yeah.
All
With
you
this.
have to remember
So-
is Apple is always looking forward. They don't want to look back.
That's true. And
Well, that
and
sounds
maybe that's
great,
their
Jim.
logic. They never
Have
look
you-
back.
Have you tried shaking it or banging it on the floor?
No, I like my iPad. Thank
That's
you,
it.
guys.
I thought that was a Microsoft thing.
Well, then you can go out and buy an Android tablet that has a back button.
Well,
How do I look at the chat?
how do you look at the chat? There's a down on the bottom. There should be a chat.
If you
I
join,
clicked on
if you
that.
join on Android or iOS, try swiping from right to left.
Tom.
Well,
In Apple, it's down at the
Hold on,
bottom.
Tom.
Yeah.
I clicked on the chat at the bottom. A box open, the tower on the right opened up saying chat,
Okay.
and it shows. It gives me a show chat button, which is turned on, and nothing else shows up there.
I think you have to turn it on at the point people put something in chat. You can't go backwards in chat either.
Chat should
Well,
be everything should be populated.
I can't go
in chat.
backwards now.
See,
Well,
Yep,
but
I
you're
got
on an
logged out.
right
Donna,
now
you're on an
the
iPad.
chat has three
Yeah.
items in it, and number 3 is the handout that Sanford made available, and it has a little green dot inside, and you click on that, and it'll download to your system. It'll ask you what do you want to name the file, and it'll give you a default. Now, why you're not seeing, are you sure you're on chat on the bottom Zoom?
On the very bottom, chat has the number 4 on it. I clicked on that because it's got a little arrow pointing up.
Okay. Well, just hit the chat itself. You don't need the up arrow.
Right.
Okay.
There are exactly 4
Just-
entries in the chat.
Okay, now I've hit the chat and not the arrow pointing up. All right.
And now the third item, there's a little green button with a check mark in it. Tap that green dot and it'll download to your system. With a default name, you can change.
And then you have to save it.
Right. Make sure you
Well,
say.
so, okay, it was the 4th one down, but okay. Click on that.
Click on the check.
Now, Donna, I can't help on because she's on an iPad. I don't know if you can
Well,
open.
I logged out,
The
so
text
because I
file.
logged back in, I can't go back and chat.
Okay.
No, once you log out, you lose all the old tabs.
I've lost it all. So that's the problem with the iPad. If there's ever a download, it's tricky.
Donna,
It's just-
I'll resend
Yeah.
the file to you.
Donna?
Okay.
That's all right. I'm
Donna,
good. I looked at it way back when.
Donna,
Okay.
I've got
All
it
right.
downloaded. I can send it to you in an email.
Okay, thank you.
All right. We have time for one more subject. Someone like to pick out a number?
How about the advanced Windows features?
Number.
What number?
It was
Three?
Windows hidden features, number 3.
Windows hidden features, number 3.
Number 3.
Okay, let me pull that one up.
I'll figure that out later.
Okay, Windows hidden features. There's a lot of, this is a good one to have. So you've got the control keys or the Windows keys used in a certain layout. You can get a 3-snap layout using the Windows Z plus Z. Clipboard history, Windows V. I like that one. Live captions. What the heck is that?
If you have a video playing or something of that nature,
Windows.
also for meetings, like this meeting, if you needed captions and Zoom didn't provide it, it'll caption any audio. Now, one caution about that, I think it uses Copilot AI.
Okay,
So if you've removed Copilot, you won't have it.
not seen that one. Windows File Explorer tabs use Control and the letter T. Voice typing. Bert's real good at voice typing. And that
I
is
just
Windows
put on
key.
the captions, and it's working for our meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's you got a step recorder, improved notes and photos, storage sense, Windows terminal that hardly anyone uses.
I've been using Windows Terminal a lot in what I've been dealing with.
I said hardly. Bob, you're the pusher of the extremes, shall we say. You push the Windows environment, which we love. We want it. We want you to do that. So
What I try to do is push it back to behaving a lot more like it did on the Windows 10. In other words, get rid of the AI and all that stuff.
right.
And get rid of the advertising. So that's how I end up I actually end up in PowerShell, not the terminal as such. I don't do Windows subsystem for Linux. Drew does that.
Okay.
So I do PowerShell and command prompt. I also find that I can preview the Windows updates and see if there's a driver that's going to come my way and mess up my system so I can block it. You can hide updates using PowerShell.
Well, if you really hate the AI, you got to be careful because Microsoft forked the terminal program, and now there's an intelligent terminal program along with the old terminal program. And it has AI built into the intelligent ones, Copilot specific.
Yeah, I'm aware of that, but what I need is a dumb terminal like PowerShell.
Well, actually,
Because-
terminal is PowerShell under the hood. They just gave it another name, kind of like the way Linux calls it terminal also.
Can you explain, Bob, why a person would use terminal versus PowerShell?
They're the same thing. That's
Okay.
Terminal can do things the way the command prompt did it, and also the way PowerShell did it, and it can also call up Windows Subsystem for Linux,
right.
And it can also run this AI-assisted terminal, which I think is pure garbage.
Right. Terminal and PowerShell are two very different items. You can't run a PowerShell script in a command terminal.
I run it.
You can run it in terminal, but you can't run it in a command prompt,
Right.
a command window.
Yeah, command window will not take a power script. But terminal is really just a relabeled version of PowerShell itself. I
Well,
guarantee
I just
it.
clicked on Power Terminal, and it opened up, and it says command prompt. users dking. And it says terminal in the menu.
Yes, it's
I'm
called
curious, does
terminal.
anyone know, does terminal have is it doing like an emulation mode?
On
Is it
mine,
for the
What are you
purpose
at?
is it for the purpose of communicating with another machine that's running a different OS? Is that its purpose?
Oh,
No.
you're talking
No.
a remote access and SSH to make it secure. And those are features for talking to another computer, whether it's in your own home or somewhere on the other side of the planet. It doesn't matter. It's all going through the internet. But you got to be real cautious because there have been a lot of big misconfigurations and usages of those in the past that have caused big security problems. And periodically, the SSH, the bad guys are trying to break into that and get your security key. So you got to think of that as a high risk area. You got to have very strong passwords on SSH through the terminal.
So according to AI, the core difference is that terminal is the visual window that displays your text, while PowerShell is the actual brain that processes your commands.
You can think of it
use
that way.
PowerShell without terminal to look at, and terminal needs a shell to run inside.
Yeah.
To actually do the work. Does that mean?
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
shells,
Now, if
and
you-
you can run scripts in a PowerShell or terminal. And a script is kind of like old-fashioned batch files on steroids.
Yeah, the command window, if it were not running in terminal mode, would be just for issuing individual commands or
Right.
one-liners. Whereas PowerShell, you can copy and paste a script, and you can copy and paste bits and pieces, and you can reuse the commands and do all kinds of other neat things. Terminal is even more so.
If you look at the screen right now that's being shared, it tells you the difference between terminal and PowerShell.
Yep.
And terminal is not PowerShell. You cannot run a PowerShell script in a terminal window. I guarantee.
Well, you tell me how I'm doing it then.
I don't know.
In Windows Terminal, they confuse the two. A PowerShell window that you're talking about is different from a command window, but a Windows Terminal window is not a command window. It's not the console.
Right.
It is in fact PowerShell.
That's correct. And like I say, Now, normal PowerShell used to have a blue background. When they relabeled it, a version of it as terminal, they made it black like a command shell. And the command shell still works in any computer. All you got to do is do a Windows key plus R to open up a run box, type in CMD, hit enter, and you've got a command shell. But it's very limited in modern Windows 10 or 11. And the PowerShell or terminal do the exact same things, and I have found no difference between the two. Sanford, you've run before an attempt to make a tiny Windows 11 to run on an old computer of yours. You are running a shell script that is either in PowerShell or terminal. It works either place.
Now, a terminal can run any of a number of different shells.
Yes.
It can run, a terminal can run PowerShell, it can run the command shell, it can run the Linux bash shell.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's
if you
because
turn,
you can have
if you
tabs
click on the
in
Windows key
terminal.
and then type in term, T-E-R-M, it'll give you a list of all of the different types of prompts. A command prompt, a PowerShell prompt.
Right.
All I get is terminal.
Yeah.
Command prompt is down under apps, and PowerShell is nowhere to be seen.
It's interesting because
That's on their
I just tried running 3 PowerShell scripts in a terminal window, and all it did was open the script in a notepad. It didn't run it.
That sounds like association is not correct on your system, and you have to say open this with terminal.
I'm in a terminal window, and I just typed in the name of the
Then you
PowerShell
have to
script,
put the
and it
proper name
opens
of
it
the
up.
script
If
and
I
location.
open up PowerShell and do the same command, it runs the PowerShell script.
You have to install a Windows Store app in order to have the terminal app. It is not native to Windows 11.
Oh, they took it out?
It's never been there.
Ah.
If you do terminal preview, let's see what it does. Terminal preview, if I run as administrator,
Terminal is an app. Here, uninstall.
There. Okay. That brings up for me PowerShell 762.
I just opened up a terminal as administrator. Very first line says Windows PowerShell, and then right below it, Microsoft Corporation, all rights reserved. Install the latest PowerShell for the features and improvements, and they give you a URL to add in additional features.
My PowerShell has already been upgraded. It is 7.6.2. So what comes up with me when I do terminal preview is PowerShell. By default, it is PowerShell.
I get 2 different programs on mine. I can show it to you.
Now I have a drop-down arrow which can give me another PowerShell, a command prompt, Azure Cloud Shell, PowerShell 7x86. Settings, command palette, which is a store app, and about. And we're done with this.
Okay, we need to move on. Actually, we're done with our meeting, and I want to ask, does anyone have any last questions on our topics for tonight? No, I will stop the recording. And I will say...
Recording stopped.